within the next decade, all allies would live up to invest at least 2% of GDP in defense. When we read your latest annual report, we see that only 7 allies live up to that 2% target in 2022. That's very disappointing. So the question is, how would you address this issue in Vilnius? How would you press the allies to actually live up to their commitments from 2014?
Well, as you know, Anders, the decision in Wales in 2014 was something that was not easy to reach. You were then Secretary General when that decision was made, and I am very glad that when I came in, we had that decision as a starting point. But of course, it reflected that some allies were very eager to move fast to 2% and beyond, and other allies were very reluctant. So whether it's good or bad, where we are now depends a bit on whether you assess the glass as half full or half empty. The reality is that since 2014, we have come a long way on defense spending, even though I would have very much appreciated NATO allies to have done even more. Because before 2014, allies across Europe and Canada were reducing defense spending. Since 2014, all allies have increased defense spending, some more than others, but all have gone from going down to going up, which is a huge difference. We have more than double the number of allies meeting the 2% target, and even those who are not yet at 2%, they have now plans in place to be there within a few years. For instance, Germany, they're not at 2%, but the increase they have already started to deliver, and makes a huge difference because of the size of Germany and because of the site, the 100 billion that has been set aside that enables them to reach 2% soon. Then the challenge was that since there were different views in Wales, the language is a bit. Also the language says that we should aim to move towards 2%, and for some allies they interpreted that as a kind of ceiling we should move towards. I hope that in Vilnius we will be able to agree a much stronger commitment, meaning that we should not refer to 2% as something we aim towards to move towards, but we should have 2% as not the ceiling but the floor, a minimum that all allies should deliver immediately, not within a decade. And if anything, the war in Ukraine has demonstrated for all allies the need to invest more in defense. So I welcome the progress we have made. I want to see even more, and I'm certain that at Vilnius we will have a stronger commitment to investing more in defense.
When should they meet that floor?
That should be immediately. So instead of having a kind of a decade-long perspective, because 2014 is of course different than 2023. Things have changed. If any, the allies realized in August 2014, when the Wales summit was held, that we lived in a more dangerous world. But it's even more obvious now with massive aggression by Russia against Ukraine. So again, it's not for me to decide. This text will be negotiated. I will put forward my proposals. I will push hard for allies to agree something which is stronger, referring to 2% as a minimum, and where we don't have a decade long, but it should be something that should reach also as soon as possible, immediately, without waiting more than absolutely necessary.
Do you think that 2030 is as soon as possible?
Well, it will vary because some allies are, quite far away from 2%, and of course there's no way to double defense spending in 1 year. But all other allies and more allies are now quite close to 2%, and of course they could be there very soon. But the message should be that there's not yet another decade. You should all be at 2% as soon as possible. That should be the message from Vilnius.
Okay. So let me turn a bit to the broader world. In the new strategic concept, NATO addresses the challenges from China And among other things, you write in the new strategic concept, we will stand up for our shared values and the rules-based international order, including freedom of navigation. So, what does this mean in practice? Could you imagine a NATO engagement in keeping the South China Sea or the Taiwan Strait open for international shipping?
Well, NATO allies are present also in the South China Sea. I mean, they sail there with merchant ships, and of course they also sail there with military or naval ships. NATO will remain a regional alliance, North America and Europe. But what was clearly stated for the first time in the strategic concept we agreed in Madrid last year was that China matters for our security, and China poses a challenge to our interests, our values, and to our security. And that's also one of the reasons why we are now working even more closely with our Asia-Pacific partners, and also why we have so clearly communicated that status quo in and around Taiwan should not be changed by force, and China's threatening rhetoric and behavior against Taiwan is unjustified, and any differences and disputes around Taiwan should be resolved by peaceful means.
Okay. My last summit as Secretary General was the Wales Summit in 2014. I don't know if the Vilnius Summit will be your last summit as Secretary General. I know that you have indicated a desire to leave NATO, and I also know that it's very much restricted what you are able to say about this issue. But maybe I could ask you, which qualifications do you think that your successor should possess?
As I have had the privilege of serving as Secretary General of NATO for almost 9 years now, and I'm totally focused on that task until my tenure ends in October. It's important for me to not be part of the discussion about who will come after me, my successor. So anything I say about that, qualifications or whatever it is, will just be interpreted as I'm going into discussion I should not be part of. I'm absolutely confident that this alliance of close to 1 billion people, many nations, 31 nations, will be absolutely able to find a great successor following after me.
May I ask you my question and your reply will be between you and me. If allies ask you to stay on, are you ready to continue and celebrate the 75th anniversary summit in DC next year?
Well, I have made it clear that I have no other plans than to leave this fall. I've already been almost twice as long as originally planned, and that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to thank you very much, Jens. You are the head of the strongest organization of Earth to defend freedom and democracy. So thank you very much for joining us today. I wish you all the best in the run-up to Vilnius and whatever might happen after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus. Great honor to be with you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Fogh Rasmussen. Thank you very much to